The song's refrain is don't fail, don't fail, don't fail. Has your inner voice ever whispered those words to your ears? You don't have to raise your hands. Those words, don't fail, don't fail, don't fail. Or maybe the message was, you failed. You're a failure. Suspected stories of failure abound. They're all around us. Here are a few. Henry Ford failed and went broke 5 times before he finally succeeded. 5 times. Beethoven handled the violin awkwardly and preferred playing his own compositions instead of improving his technique. His teacher called him hopeless as a composer. Beethoven. Walt Disney was fired by a newspaper editor for lack of ideas. Charles Darwin, the father of the theory of evolution, gave up a medical career and was told by his father, you care for nothing but shooting dogs, that's not shooting dogs, that's shooting, dogs, and rat catching. In his autobiography, Darwin wrote, I was considered by my father a very ordinary boy, rather below the common standard in intellect. Albert Einstein did not speak until he was 4 years old and didn't read until he was 7. His teacher described him as mentally slow, unsociable, and adrift forever in his foolish dreams. The University of Bern turned down his PhD dissertation as being irrelevant and fanciful. The movie Star Wars, I got a few more of these, I love these. The movie Star Wars was rejected by every movie studio in Hollywood before 20th Century Fox finally produced it. It went on to become one of the highest grossing movies in history. How many of you are old enough to remember Fred Astaire? I am. A goodly number. After Fred Astaire's first screen test, for those of you who don't know him, we didn't raise your hand, Fred Astaire, he's since passed. He was a movie star. He was a wonderful singer, dancer, and actor. So after his first screen test, the memo from the testing director of MGM, dated 1933, said, quote, can't act, slightly bald, can dance a little. 3 more. The father of the sculptor Rodin, who created the thinker, you know, okay, no, get that one? His father said, I have an idiot for a son. Described as the worst pupil in the school, Rodin failed 3 times to secure admittance to the School of Art. Babe Ruth, considered by sports historians to be the greatest athlete of all time and famous for setting the home run record, also holds another record. Do you know what the second record is for? Strikeouts, which proves the ancient adage, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Margaret Mitchell's classic Gone with the Wind was turned down by more than 25 publishers. And the last I'm going to share today. In 1954, the year of Greg and my birth, Jimmy, anybody else born in 54? It was a great year. What an auspicious year, 54. I'll have the 54, please. In 1954, Jimmy Denny, the manager of the Grand Ole Opry, fired Elvis Presley after 1 performance. He told Presley, you ain't going nowhere, son. You ought to go back to driving a truck. As I asked earlier, do any stories of failure exist in your life? Again, don't raise hands. And if you believe they do, I say to that, it's not possible. It's not possible. in a world in which we say there is only one presence and one power in my life, God. Failure is not an option. You never failed, and you never will. Preposterous, your ego says. Of course you failed. Failure is all around. Look at our economy. Look at our schools. Look at our government. Look at yourself. Look in the mirror. Failure is everywhere. And the Holy Spirit steadfastly whispers, not so. Well, then prove it, snarls the ego. Prove it. In our song, Don't Fail, the refrain that we hear so often in the song is don't fail, don't fail, don't fail. But each verse ends with these words: only pure, uninterrupted acts prevail. Only pure, uninterrupted acts prevail. Now I ask you, what is another word, another name for pure, uninterrupted acts?
Spirit. Says.
Love.
Stand up. Yes. Love. Love. Only pure, uninterrupted acts prevail. Love. Where have we heard that before? I am certain, even though some of you said, you know, I'm not so much into the Bible, I don't read it that much, it's fine. But if you've ever been to at least a couple culturally Christian weddings in your lives, you've heard these words. So I'll tell you where we've heard it before. From the words of the Apostle Paul. And we looked at some of his metaphysical wisdom last Sunday. In Corinthians 13, this is at least in every third culturally Christian wedding, these words. He writes, love never ends. Only pure, uninterrupted acts prevail. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. Prophecies, those are nothing more than what we think is going to happen, our vision of the future, what we anticipate, what our expectations are. That's what prophecies are. It says those will come to an end. He writes, as for tongues, they will cease. Tongues are the words we speak. And they ultimately will come to an end. They're temporary. He goes on, as for knowledge, it will come to an end. Every belief that I have, every belief that you have, no matter how grand or glorious or good, it will pass. All the beliefs pass. Every belief of every form goes past. They come to an end. And he writes, for we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was younger, and I read Paul's words, I thought he was talking about the time of death, my death. That when I die, then the complete will come and the partial will end. What I later came to understand is this, that he's not talking about death, but life. thinking of your life and my life right now, this moment. That the partial can come to an end and the complete can come for us now, not later. Whatever we say is going to happen, whatever we said happened, whatever we think we are, all of that begins to disappear and take on less meaning as we embrace love right now. Love transcends all. The only thing that prevails is love. Just saying that doesn't make it so, says your ego. You haven't proved anything. How's my ego doing? I didn't look myself in the mirror. I just kind of. All right, we'll give the ego a little more proof. Used to be a lawyer. So we have a time-honored classic teaching that is so beautifully expressed in A Course in Miracles, and it's this. It's so simple. That every experience we have in life, comes from one of two things: love or fear. And I have checked this out repeatedly for decades, and it never fails. Everything I ever experience, or think, or feel, or believe, bless you, comes from love, as in blessings, or from fear. And failure is a first cousin of fear. It's simply another form of fear. See, knowing that everything comes from love or fear, that's our spiritualized perspective. In our secular world, and we see no separation between our spiritual life and our secular life, but in our secular vocabulary, we have counterparts to love and fear. Those words are success and failure. Success and failure. My mother couldn't be here with us today. She's fine. She couldn't be here today. I know, growing up, it was so apparent to me that her greatest fear, her single greatest fear, was that she failed as a parent, that she was a failure as a parent. Now, I'm not saying that she walked around saying, I'm a failure as a parent, but that was her fear, that she wouldn't be good enough. I know she's released that fear now. She's transcended that.